Stop avoiding beef liver. The food your grandmother cooked every week has just been formally reinstated. The 2026 Senior Food Pyramid now recognizes it as one of the most complete sources of nutrition for adults over 60. Nothing in the supplement aisle comes close to its nutritional value. This video is educational, based on the 2026 Dietary Guidelines for Americans and peer-reviewed research. Beef liver is a nutrient-dense whole food, not a medication. If you have specific health conditions, consult your healthcare provider before making significant dietary changes. How much money have you spent in the last 12 months on supplements? B12 capsules, iron pills, multivitamins, energy formulas with scientific names and high prices. If you are like most people over 60, the answer is more than you would like to admit. Now, consider a food that costs roughly $2 a serving. It sits in the refrigerated section of every butcher and most supermarkets. It delivers more of what your body actually needs than virtually anything else on the planet. And then I want to tell you why nobody told you this. That part of the story matters just as much. For decades, beef liver was systematically removed from the Western diet. Not by accident, but a deliberate casualty of a nutritional framework built on fear. Fear of cholesterol, saturated fat, and the idea that organ meats were somehow dangerous. Health organizations issued guidance. Physicians passed it along to patients in good faith. A generation of older adults swapped liver and onions for low-fat cereal and protein powder, confident they were making the responsible, modern, scientifically endorsed choice. The result of that choice is now visible in every clinic waiting room across the country. Sarcopenia in people who eat plenty of protein by old standards, chronic fatigue in people who sleep enough, B12 deficiency in people who take B12 supplements, iron deficiency anemia in people who eat their vegetables, and a rate of cognitive decline that has accelerated steadily alongside decades of liver avoidance. The evidence was always there. The willingness to look at it took longer. The answer might already be at the butcher counter, for a fraction of the price. Let me tell you what is actually in beef liver, because the numbers are difficult to believe. A single 100-gram serving, about the size of your palm, costs roughly $2. It contains over 100% of the daily requirement for B12, vitamin A, riboflavin, folate, copper, and hemi-iron. It delivers 26 grams of complete protein with all essential amino acids. It contains coenzyme Q10, choline, and zinc in concentrations no plant food can match. Most commercial supplements also fail to replicate these in genuinely bioavailable form. Before we go further, tell us in the comments, have you ever eaten beef liver? Did you grow up eating it? Or were you told to avoid it? Share this video with someone who has been throwing money at supplements for years without seeing results. If you designed a food for adults over 60, addressing common nutritional gaps, you'd create beef liver. The overlap is not coincidental. Let me focus on B12 first, because the story here is medically important and genuinely infuriating. Vitamin B12 deficiency is one of the most common and underdiagnosed conditions in adults over 60. Many are already taking supplements, yet remain deficient or borderline deficient. The reason supplements so frequently fail is not because the dosage is wrong. It is structural. Cyanocobalamin, the synthetic form in most B12 supplements, requires intrinsic factor for absorption. Intrinsic factor is produced in the stomach lining. After 60, gastric acid production declines significantly, and with it, intrinsic factor production too. The supplement goes in, but a substantial portion passes through without being properly absorbed. This built-in limitation means no dose increase fully solves the problem. Many older adults take B12 for years, with blood levels that barely move. The methylcobalamin form found naturally in liver bypasses much of this dependency. It is absorbed through alternative pathways, more resilient to declining gastric function with age. Harold, 71, had been taking B12 supplements faithfully for 3 years. His energy had not recovered. His neurologist flagged mild cognitive changes. His B12 blood levels were at the low end of normal, despite supplementation. A conversation with a nutrition-focused practitioner led him to add liver to his meals twice a week. 4 months later, his serum B12 had normalized without any change to his supplement routine. The persistent afternoon fatigue he had accepted as unavoidable had substantially lifted. His wife noticed he was sharper in conversation before he did. His supplement shelf got considerably lighter. His grocery bill barely changed. The heme iron story deserves equal attention, particularly for women over 60. They often assume iron deficiency is something they left behind with menopause. Iron deficiency in older adults is frequently overlooked because it doesn't always present as dramatic anemia. Subclinical iron deficiency produces fatigue, reduced physical capacity, impaired temperature regulation, and compromised immune function. These symptoms get attributed to aging, stress, or poor sleep. The iron in plant foods, non-heme iron, has an absorption rate of between 2 and 10%. Phytates in grains and legumes block it. Polyphenols in tea and coffee block it. Calcium competes with it. The heme iron in liver absorbs at a rate of 15 to 35%, and it is largely immune to these blocking effects. 2 servings of liver per week can produce measurable improvement in iron status within 4 to 6 weeks, in ways that months of careful vegetable consumption often cannot replicate. Here is something that deserves to be stated plainly. The fear of vitamin A toxicity from eating liver is one of the most persistent nutritional myths. The medical concern about hypervitaminosis A is real in the context of daily consumption of extremely large quantities, or supplement megadosing. It does not apply to 2 servings of beef liver per week. The tolerable upper intake level for preformed vitamin A is 10,000 international units per day. A 100-gram serving of beef liver contains roughly 16 to 17,000 IU. 2 servings per week averages 4 to 5,000 IU per day. This is well under the daily ceiling, which itself is set with a substantial conservative safety margin. What you receive is retinol. Retinol is the preformed animal version that requires no metabolic conversion before the body can use it. It supports immune surveillance. It maintains the integrity of skin and mucous membranes, supports night vision, and plays a direct role in the function of the lungs, gut, and bladder lining. Plant foods provide beta-carotene, which the body must convert to retinol. Conversion efficiency in older adults is generally poor. In individuals carrying common variants of the BCM01 gene, conversion is very poor regardless of age. Eating liver sidesteps the entire conversion problem. A note at this point: nothing in this video is a treatment for disease, and I want you to hold that clearly. If you have hemochromatosis, iron overload, kidney disease, gout, or specific medications, the practical decisions belong with your doctor. What I am describing is the restoration of a whole food your body was designed to digest and utilize, that your grandparents ate without question, and that the official nutritional establishment in 2026 formally stopped discouraging. That distinction matters. This is not fringe medicine. It is the current position of the most rigorous dietary review process the United States government has ever conducted. The choline in liver deserves its own moment of attention because it is the nutrient most likely to be entirely absent from the vocabulary of anyone who has not actively sought out recent nutrition research. Choline is essential for liver function, for fat metabolism, for cell membrane integrity, and most critically, for anyone over 60 who wants to maintain their mental sharpness, for the production of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter most directly associated with memory formation, attention, and learning. The brain's demand for choline does not decrease with age. The body's capacity to synthesize choline endogenously does decrease. And egg yolks, which most people think of as a rich source, deliver choline at roughly half the concentration of liver. The chronic low-level choline deficiency, now common across older adults eating liver-free, low-fat diets, is one of the least discussed contributors to cognitive slowing. And memory gaps that get attributed to genetics, to aging, to the passage of time. It is not inevitable. It is a grocery list problem. Coenzyme Q10 is another area where liver delivers what supplements routinely oversell. CoQ10 is essential for mitochondrial energy production, the process by which every cell in your body converts nutrients into usable fuel. After 60, mitochondrial efficiency declines, and CoQ10 status tends to decline with it, particularly in people taking statin medications, which directly suppress CoQ10 synthesis. Commercial CoQ10 supplements vary enormously in bioavailability, depending on form and manufacturing quality. The CoQ10 in liver is bound within a food matrix that enhances absorption in ways that isolated supplements do not replicate consistently. 2 servings of liver per week provides meaningful CoQ10 alongside every other nutrient already discussed. You are not buying separate solutions to separate problems. You are eating one food that addresses most of them at once. Now let me be practical about the cooking, because this is where the conversation typically ends before it should. Liver has a reputation, and in many cases that reputation is earned by bad preparation. Overcooked liver is tough, metallic, and unpleasant. This has nothing to do with the food itself and everything to do with the technique. The approach is simple. Slice it thin, no thicker than a centimeter. Soak it in milk for 30 to 60 minutes before cooking. This step draws out some of the compounds responsible for the sharpest bitterness and makes a meaningful difference to the final flavor. Pat it dry thoroughly, then cook it quickly in butter or tallow over high heat, no more than 2 to 3 minutes per side. It should be pale pink in the center when you cut into it. Pair it with caramelized onions, which adds sweetness that complements the mineral depth of the meat, and a small pinch of good sea salt. That is the whole recipe. If you do this correctly and still find the flavor challenging, start with chicken liver instead. Chicken liver is considerably milder than beef liver and carries a similar, if slightly reduced, nutritional profile. A third option that many people find easiest: incorporate a small quantity of finely blended beef liver into ground beef dishes, burgers, meatballs, meat sauce. At a ratio of 1 part liver to 4 parts beef, the flavor is almost entirely undetectable, and the nutrition is fully retained. There is no rule that says this has to be the centerpiece of a meal. The requirement is simply that it be somewhere on the plate, twice a week. If you are realizing right now that your fatigue, your brain fog, your slow recovery, your supplement dependency has been a nutritional problem with a $2 solution, write in the comments, "My plate is my medicine." That is not just a comment. It is the beginning of a different approach. Hit the like button and subscribe, because we are going to keep bringing you this kind of information every week. Let me close with the larger picture, because I think it is worth holding. The 2026 dietary guidelines do not exist in isolation. They are the product of an extended scientific review involving hundreds of researchers, thousands of peer-reviewed studies, and a genuine public reckoning, with the consequences of 4 decades of guidance that was wrong in important ways. The rehabilitation of beef liver, of organ meats, of animal fats, of the full-fat dairy that was removed from family tables in the name of heart health. This is not a fringe reversal driven by social media. It is the current considered position of the most rigorous nutritional review process in the world. Your grandmother ate liver every week. Because her grandmother ate liver every week, and their bodies functioned differently than the bodies of the generation that followed the guidelines. That is not nostalgia. That is evidence. 2 servings per week. Roughly $4 in total food cost. No prescription, no subscription, no shipping delay, no daily capsule. If you are over 60 and you are tired of being tired, start there. Give it 8 weeks. Pay attention to how you feel, to how you think, to whether the things you have been blaming on age begin to shift. I think you will find the results more convincing than anything I have said in this video. If you made it this far, that tells me you take your health seriously, and that matters here. Leave a like and a comment telling me if you are going to try liver this week or if you have already been eating it. The zinc content of liver rounds out a picture that is already comprehensive. Zinc is required for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body, including protein synthesis, immune cell production, wound healing, and testosterone production in men. Older adults are among the most zinc-deficient populations studied, and the bioavailability of zinc from plant sources is severely limited by phytate binding. Liver delivers zinc in a form the body recognizes and uses efficiently, alongside all the cofactors that support its uptake. There is no competition from phytates, no uncertainty about conversion rates, no question of whether the supplement you bought actually dissolves properly. Let me also address something that comes up frequently in the comments of videos like this: the concern about environmental contaminants accumulating in organ meats, particularly in the liver, because the liver is the organ of detoxification. This concern is based on a partial understanding of how the liver works. The liver does not store toxins. It processes and neutralizes them, directing them toward excretion. What the liver does store, in high concentration, is nutrients, fat-soluble vitamins, minerals, glycogen. An animal raised on natural pasture and processed through clean facilities produces liver that is a nutritional asset, not a toxin sink. If you have concerns about sourcing grass-fed and pasture-raised liver, which is available at most health-oriented grocery stores and online from specialty suppliers, provides additional assurance. Of animals raised without routine antibiotics or hormone interventions, it also tends to have a milder flavor, which is a practical bonus for those still getting comfortable with the taste. The folate in liver is worth a specific mention for cognitive health. Folate, together with B12 and B6, regulates homocysteine, an amino acid that, when elevated, is a well-established risk factor for cognitive decline, cardiovascular disease, and stroke. Elevated homocysteine is extremely common in older adults, and it is almost always a B vitamin deficiency problem. The methylfolate found naturally in liver is more bioavailable and does not require the MTHFR enzyme conversion that synthetic folic acid depends on, a conversion that is impaired in a significant proportion of the population. Eating liver twice a week addresses folate status through a form the body can use directly, simultaneously managing B12 and B6 intake, which means the homocysteine-lowering effect is more complete than any single supplement can achieve. We are not talking about a health trend. We are not talking about something discovered recently and likely to be reversed by the next study. We are talking about a food that humans evolved eating, that sustained populations across every continent for tens of thousands of years. That was displaced from the modern diet by bad science and replaced with products that performed worse on every meaningful metric. The 2026 Dietary Guidelines made the correction official. What you do with that information is yours to decide. 2 servings per week. Every week. Start this weekend, if you can. One more thing before I let you go, and it is the kind of practical detail that rarely makes it into nutrition videos, but that I think matters enormously for compliance. The smell of liver while it is cooking is the second most common reason people abandon it right after the taste. Raw liver has a strong, iron-rich smell that intensifies in the pan if the heat is too low and the moisture does not cook off quickly. High heat solves this. A very hot pan with a high smoke point fat, butter, tallow, or lard, sears the surface within seconds, sealing in moisture, and preventing the oxidation of surface compounds that produces the most off-putting aromas. Open a window for the first few times. After a few sessions, the smell becomes familiar, and, to most people, eventually appetizing in the same way that caramelizing onions become appetizing. It signals something rich and nourishing rather than something to be avoided. The combination of liver and onions is not culinary tradition for sentimental reasons. Onions contain quercetin and other polyphenols that complement the iron absorption from the liver and add a sweetness that genuinely balances the mineral depth of the meat. If you are cooking liver for the first time, cook the onions first, low and slow, until they are deeply caramelized, at least 20 to 25 minutes. Remove them from the pan, raise the heat to high, add your fat, then cook the liver slices for 2 to 3 minutes per side. Return the onions to the pan, toss once to combine, and serve immediately. Liver does not improve from sitting. It goes from perfectly cooked to overcooked in under a minute, so respect the timing and eat it while it is fresh. If you cook this properly and find that you genuinely cannot get past the taste even after several attempts, consider desiccated beef liver capsules as a compromise. These are not the same as the supplement tablets lining the pharmacy shelf. They are freeze-dried, minimally processed whole liver ground, and encapsulated, which means the nutrients are still present in their natural ratios and forms, largely intact. They are more expensive than buying fresh liver and cooking it yourself. And the doses in most commercial capsule products are lower than what you would consume from 2 actual servings. But they are a legitimate middle ground for people who need the nutritional benefits and cannot find a way to eat the food directly. The goal is the nutrients. How you get them is a practical question, not a philosophical one. We are in this together. Every week on this channel, we bring you the kind of information that takes the fog off the choices you make every day. Leave your comment, leave your like, and let me know what you are going to change this week. I read every comment. See you in the next one.